Good morning. It's Uncle Phil, and Smooth Andy and I are back again. This time to discuss part three in our series to discuss the AFC South. Really interesting thing. Before we get into that, if you like what Smooth Andy and I are doing, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you want picks for this season, go to UnclePhil'sLocks.com, where I am completely dialed in this year. Smooth Andy, let's get into it. AFC South, maybe not the most glamorous division of all the NFL, but um, it's but got the potential to be that way. You've got Anthony Richardson back this year from an injury. He's a little bit Joe Burrow-esque in that he's had multiple injuries during his career. He's kind of getting that way. Can he stay healthy? It's his, Josh Allen's been this big running quarterback, and has really, kind of defied most running quarterbacks and stayed healthy. But will Anthony Richardson, can he stay healthy? You've got Jacksonville, you've got Trevor Lawrence. Really feels like a make or break year for him and for Coach Doug Peterson this year. Doug Peterson in the offseason completely fired his offensive and defensive staffs, replaced those. Trevor Lawrence last year, um, in the um, in the last 3 years, Trevor Lawrence leads the entire NFL, not just quarterbacks, but the entire NFL in fumbles with 21. The second place is Jared Goff with 14 and 12 with Josh Allen. So he's far and away, it's not even close about leading fumbles. I mean, that seems to be his Achilles heel with that. So you've got some interesting stories there. And, look, it's hard to not talk about the AFC South and even lead with talking about CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's the first rookie quarterback to ever lead the NFL in passing yards per game. One of three quarterbacks ever to lead the NFL in passing yards per game and TD to interception ratio in the same season, joining only the hallowed Tom Brady and Joe Montana. Could the expectations be any higher for him? Became the youngest starting quarterback ever to guide his team to a playoff win, replacing Michael Vick. Tied the record for the most passing TDs by a rookie in three in a playoff game, and did so against the NFL's number one defense in Cleveland. Except Cleveland was bad on the road last year and proved to be that way in the playoffs as well. Again, recorded a 98.4 total QBR in his first playoff game, the second highest by any quarterback in the playoffs since ESPN started tracking in 2006. Set the record for most attempts without interception to start his career at 191. Set the record for most passing yards in a game by a rookie ever at 470, and tied for the most TDs by a rookie in a game ever with 5. Look, there's probably 10 other stats I could read, but we just simply don't have enough time in this show to cover all of what CJ Stroud did last year. Super impressive. Continues the string of Ohio State rookies to win the Rookie of the Year award. 6 out of the past 8 years, Ohio State has had the Rookie of the Year in the NFL. I mean, that's something unbelievable in itself. Kind of one of those odd but true stats that's there. The only team, I guess the only team we really hadn't talked about is the Titans, and for good reason, right? Titans were kind of a mess last year, bottom dwellers. I kind of predict, I'll go ahead and spill the beans. I'll probably predict them to be the last again this year. Will Levis, not really sure if he's the guy or not. But again, Bill Callahan, coming from one of my rules is week one, you do not bet for or against a team with a new coach based on the quarterback and how they looked last year if you've got a new coach, because things could change. And you have, like Shane Steichen, how he's kind of the guy, and left Philadelphia, and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts turned into a different quarterback, at least in the back half of the season. And could be the same thing true for Will Levis this year with Bill Callahan coming from Cincinnati. We talked about him in our last episode, and who was the secret sauce in the Cincinnati Bengals? Is it Zach Taylor? Is it Bill Callahan? I think this year we'll have our answer in that. And Bill Callahan with the Tennessee Titans, and Will Levis be the guy. Now, a lot of players and coaches, he replaced, brought in a completely new staff. That was kind of a mess. Amy Adams Strunk is the president CEO of the Titans. Replacing her father Bud Adams, and it was really a power struggle between her and Vrabel. And of course, the president wins in that situation. So, how's that going to play out this year with Bill Callahan? I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how the Titans evolve. Will they be a surprise team or not? I don't think they have the roster. Obviously, big missing piece this year, in addition to Vrabel, is Derrick Henry as well. So, there's a lot missing from the Titans. Completely new look. It'll be interesting to see who they are. They are my bottom team, so let's start with them. What are your thoughts on the Titans?
Well, we saw this is a pet peeve of mine when people talk about these young quarterbacks is we've seen more of Levis than we have of Anthony Richardson by a wide margin.
Yeah.
I was just looking it up while you were talking to remind myself how many games Anthony Richardson started. I'm not sure about the starts, but he led his own team in passing twice.
Right.
Okay, and the rest was all Minshew.
Right.
Why are we assuming Anthony Richardson is a good quarterback based on that? I mean, everybody's acting like, well, he'll be healthy now, so now they're going to be a threat. And it's like, we don't really know what he is yet. I mean, how many different defenses has he faced? I mean, why are we assuming he's this known quantity? And then we talk about Will Levis, not that he's a known quantity, but he started 8 games. So we know more about him than we do about Anthony Richardson, but we're acting like, Levis is this, well, we'll have to see, but Anthony Richardson's a lock. He's a sure thing. He's going to be a great player. So I'm not really sure. Back to the Titans and more specifically to the Titans, I'm not sure what we have in Levis. But this is definitely going to be the team I would pick at the bottom. And I find it interesting. I'm always looking at the rankings from or rather standings from last year, and looking at points for, points against, which to me is as close to the truest measure as what you can if you consider injuries and things, for instance,
Sure.
with like the Bengals and whatever. Every one of these teams scored between 300 and 400 points and gave up between 300 and 400 points, except the Colts gave up 415 points. So these teams are all very like 9-8, 8-9, with a little luck. You get up to 10-7 like the Texans did. With a little bad luck, you can end up down at 6-10 like the Titans. So these are all very mediocre teams in this division. But I do think on paper, the Titans are not ready to be the one that's going to jump to the front of this pack right now. But because of the relative weaknesses of the other teams, it wouldn't shock me if they did. I just don't think they will.
Yeah. Now, interesting. Look, I mean, it's really a stay away from me. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. We've seen it many times where you have this team that's supposed to be bad, that's not, and you have a quarterback that's good or bad, and then all of a sudden he turns good. I think people have, adding to your thought about Anthony Richardson, which I think is a very valid one, is that and a good one that you bring up is that we don't have a lot of playbook on him. We had a lot in Florida. He wasn't a very good quarterback at Florida. Wasn't very accurate. But I think people are looking at him and going, Shane Steichen got within one game of the playoffs with Gardner Minshew.
Mm-hmm.
And the consensus among players and coaches are that Shane Steichen is not a good coach. He's a great coach,
Mm-hmm.
and that he's good. Now the question is, will Bill Callahan be a good coach or even a great coach? And if he is that, then that should translate to Will Levis. Will Levis should have this renewed year. If Bill Callahan is who we think he might be potentially, or who he could be, then Will Levis should have an off the charts year, and our prediction about the Titans at the bottom of the league may be completely wrong. Now, look, I mean, the Titans have got to figure out, wide receiver. I know they got Calvin Ridley in the offseason, from the Jags. And, Trevor Lawrence had one of the highest incompletion rates last year of our target throws. And one of the main reasons why the his throws were off target were that Calvin Ridley was running the wrong route most of the time. So, you've got Will Levis, burdened by Calvin Ridley, running wrong routes too. So, we'll see how that straightens up and does for him. On the converse side, will that actually improve with Trevor Lawrence as well? But we'll certainly get to the Jags here in a minute. But the Titans, without Derrick Henry and without Mike Vrabel on the sidelines, will certainly be a different look for us this year, at least for me, of what I'm used to seeing. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is a whole new team, a whole new staff, a whole new feel to it. And will the Titans? You've got an offensive head coach now instead of a defensive head coach, even though Vrabel was well respected in the league. And will it play out? I don't know. Too many variables for me. Last place for the Titans. Now the next one, I'm I don't. This is not in a predicted order, but just kind of working our way up because we kind of mentioned them just now as we talked about the Colts and we talked about you brought up Anthony Richardson and again rightfully so. And will Anthony Richardson, can he stay healthy? Again, he is one of the quarterbacks who has been, even going back to his Florida days, couldn't stay healthy, and very Joe Burrow-esque that people don't talk about. And can he stay healthy? He's got a physical type of play. He runs, and that's who he is. Will that? Did he learn a lesson last year about running? Sustained a concussion earlier, then got put out for the season, and the NFL is different. He's not bigger, faster, stronger than everybody else. And guess what? These defensive linemen can actually run and deliver hits at the same time. So, Indianapolis Colts. It's really for me. It's will Anthony Richardson stay healthy? Can he be? Is he going to be the guy? Because I will say this: that they just got through playing Cincinnati's backups in the most recent and their final preseason game, and Anthony Richardson started, and his first series went right down the field, had a high completion rate. The next series was just completely a disaster, threw an inexcusable pick six that just was not. And I think that's kind of if that was the first preseason game and you threw it against the backups, no harm, no foul. But at the third preseason game, you just threw that against Cincinnati's backups in a very vanilla type defense and didn't even look average. Then on his second series, then that's concerning to me. I love Shane Steichen, and I'm as high on him as anybody else. But we all know it's coach and quarterback. You have those two things right. We talked about it, in our first our first division we covered. If you have those things right, then you typically do well. Do the Indianapolis Colts have Anthony Richardson right?
Sorry, I was muted for the dogs. That's the big question. I mean, 2 games. That's nothing. We have no idea. Plus their defense. I mean, it's the worst defense points given up wise in the division. If you're not putting up Lamar Jackson numbers on offense, then you better play some decent defense, and they didn't. So now I expect that hopefully Anthony Richardson turns out to be the answer for them because that's what they need. But I don't know for sure. I think Trevor Lawrence is more of a sure thing, and CJ Stroud, I'm not so sure about him either yet. I know he was amazing last year, but rookies can sneak up on people. First 5 or 6 starts, nobody even thinks they're any good, so they're probably playing a little vanilla on them, and then so they're going to bring out the big guns this year against him. But yeah, Richardson is it's just a complete wild card. Same as Levis, really, to me. They're both, we'll see. Richardson looked promising, but people are speaking of him as if he's proven himself already. I don't think he has. So he's the big thing for me. And then their defense. If he can keep to move in the right direction, stay healthy, and the defense can improve a little, I think they're definitely a threat to win this division.
Yeah, going to be really interesting. Well, let's talk about a team who's been the threat to win the division ever since he started, but it hasn't really materialized the way you and I had thought. I mean, look, I mean, this is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, um, you know, was in a terrible situation. Urban Meyer was just a complete flop in the NFL. I mean, his luck kind of ran out. I mean, he chased the good quarterbacks wherever he went in college, and that paid off. But in NFL, he was a different cat, and character gets exposed, and his character got exposed in the NFL, and um, Trevor Lawrence was unfortunate recipient of his bad coaching. But now we have Doug Peterson, which we thought would be the savior of the Jags. But you remember, Doug Peterson got fired from the Philadelphia Eagles after winning a Super Bowl. So, maybe there's something there that people don't really like about it doesn't work about Doug Peterson. And can he work? I mean, look, to me, it felt like a little bit of a desperation when he fired his complete offensive and defensive staffs this year and reloaded. And now Trevor Lawrence is back with a new offensive coordinator, although Doug Peterson is primarily calling the plays. But I mean, you're still working with this. And, is Trevor Lawrence, I think he gets a bad rap, but he's playing for the Jags, and they've been historically been a bad franchise for a reason. And, can you overcome that? But the other people will say, the counter that will say, Joe Burrow played for the worst historic bad franchise in the league in the Cincinnati Bengals, also known affectionately as the Bungles, and they were able to, and he's been overcome because greatness overcomes. Can he do that? And they're looking for Trevor Lawrence to have that, and certainly he's had flashes. The fumbles, we talked about that earlier. That's been an issue. Will it continue to be an issue here? I don't know. Can Doug Peterson finally get it right? But more pressure this year on Doug Peterson or Trevor Lawrence?
Doug Peterson.
Yeah, 100%.
Period. End of sentence.
Yeah. Yep.
You're right. You fire both coordinators. That you're laying the groundwork for it's a make or break year for you as the head coach. And the unfortunate part about that is that even though Peterson might be still the engine driving the offense like Andy Reid does in Kansas City,
Yep.
they're going to have a new offensive coordinator, which means probably a new play caller, unless maybe
Sure.
Peterson's going to do it himself. But
Sure.
the playbook can be a little different because it has to be. Because why else would you have another coordinator?
Right.
And as a result, that means Trevor Lawrence is on his third offensive coordinator in 4 years.
Yeah.
Going into his fourth season.
Yeah.
And then to your point, the defense, same thing. And what happens when you replace a defensive coordinator early in the year? Everybody's missing assignments and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So you're taking a step back and hoping to take 2 steps forward, and we'll just have to see if they do or not. But I like Trevor Lawrence. I do admit he hasn't performed at a level where you would say he's this generational quarterback that he was spoken of when he came out of college, but he's at least an average or adequate starting quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. He's just not a superstar yet. He might never be there, but he's never going to be, I don't think he's ever going to be needing a job at some point in 5 years. He'll still be somewhere and he'll be a starter, I think. So I think he's proven enough about that in 3 years, but it's just a question of them getting over the hump. I seem to remember they kind of faded down the stretch last year, right? Didn't they just crash because they were like a half game away from making the playoffs, and then they just lost.
They were
on the
a
last.
lock to win to get into the playoffs and completely,
Right.
literally fumbled it away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of bad. But speaking for someone who is, speaking for someone who is
More
uh,
objective.
who holds a Trevor Lawrence signed rookie card. I am hoping Trevor Lawrence gets back on track, and I know you, as a Clemson alumni, are rooting for him as well. We're all rooting for Trevor. I don't know anybody who's rooting against him. We're hoping he does. The NFL's better with great quarterback play, and we're certainly hoping he can reach his potential. But you're right. This year's make or break for Doug Peterson, not for Trevor Lawrence, but really would be great to see a young up and coming offensive-minded head coach who's well respected, kind of in that Shane Steichen, or even look at what D'Amico Ryan's defensive head coach, that has done with Houston, which was a complete train wreck. Just all the way around, and he turned it around immediately. That certainly puts pressure on new coaches. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence can get that kind of coach there and become that way. And look, I don't want anybody to fail. Hopefully, Doug Peterson can get it turned around this year, but I'm not sure that he can. He hasn't shown that to be that guy yet, and hopefully he can. But we'll see. That leaves us finally with the Houston Texans. I've read CJ Stroud's resume, his accolades, and that's just in his first year. You're of the impression of, like, let's see who he is in his sophomore year type thing. I'm of the impression that he is the guy. I'm going to go out there. He is the guy. I've never seen a quarterback just instantly read the field and see the field like CJ Stroud was. Look, he was only handicapped by the Ohio State offense. I saw glimpses of who he could be against Georgia in that final game, and if it weren't for a missed field goal, probably would have won that game. So CJ Stroud is just, I think he's incredible. He's one of the most, he's a quarterback I'm one of the most excited to see. It wasn't one game; it was the entire year. He met his match against Baltimore, but again, it's because they couldn't run, and they were one of the worst teams last year, 25th NFL in rushing, and quite candidly, although they drafted 2 offensive linemen, one in the second round, one in the 7th round. I'm not sure that it's enough to fix that offensive line, and the pressure is going to be all on CJ Stroud. D'Amico Ryan's certainly shored up the defense, got that. Obviously brought in Stephon Diggs in the offense, another playmaker weapon, but it's the offensive line, the ability to run the ball is that their biggest concern. The defense, you expect a defensive head coach like D'Amico Ryan's to shore that up. He certainly did. Danielle Hunter brought him in from the Vikings, just outstanding. You're really in great shape on defense there, but it's the offense, and can they do it? But now you've got a healthy Tank Bell back, and you've got Stephon Diggs. You're really set up for a great sophomore year for CJ Stroud, except for that offensive line, the ability to run. So those are kind of my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on Houston?
My skepticism, for lack of a better word, about CJ Stroud and the Texans is not based on anything that I've seen from him on the field. It's just when a team makes a leap like that team did last year, I think everybody expects them to make that same leap again. They go from a 2-win team to a 10-win team, and then everybody wants them to thinks they're going to go 17-0 or something. Not literally, but the room for improvement has been eaten up by last year, a lot of it.
Sure.
So I would not be surprised if they were slightly disappointing this year. I'll put it that way. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Jacksonville won the division and the Texans finished second and they were borderline playoff, maybe just barely in or barely out. I do like D'Amico Ryans. I like CJ Stroud. I like everything I've seen from them last year. But a little regression to the mean wouldn't be shocking. Looking again at points, 4 points against, 377 to 353. They went 10-7, but they outscored their opponents by 24 points over 17 games. That's not as wildly successful as I think we remember. They also only scoring 377. Dallas scored 500. So as good as CJ Stroud was, it wasn't like a pinball machine offense anyway. So I'm just saying pump the brakes a little bit, in my opinion. Not to you, I'm saying that to everybody. Just, maybe they go 11-6 this year. Maybe they go 9-8. I don't know, but I don't expect them to make another big leap. There's not much room for leaping when you're 10-7 to start. So that's all I'm saying. I think they took everybody by surprise. CJ Stroud did, D'Amico Ryans did, that whole team did. Nobody's going to be surprised by them this year. They're going to be ready, and I think that usually tends to mean a little bit of a regression to the mean, maybe, for the team.
Yeah, well, I love your conservative approach of pump the brakes a little bit on CJ Stroud. Very conservative, very thoughtful approach. but I'm the opposite. I'm all gas, no brakes on CJ Stroud. I
Okay.
absolutely love CJ Stroud. I'm all in. I haven't ordered a jersey yet, but if I could, I would. I
Well,
think
hold
he,
on. In my defense, it was more pump the brakes on the Texans than on CJ Stroud. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, I
I'm
understand.
yeah, I'm more about the team that not they weren't quite as good as their record last year. And so I think, and because they went from like 2 wins to 10 or whatever it was, I think everybody just thinks that that momentum is going to keep moving and they're going to win 14 this year. And I don't see it. They weren't as good as their record last year. They didn't score a ton of points despite all those awesome numbers you told me about with CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
I think they weren't as good of a team as everybody perceives them to be last year, but it was still an amazing improvement over the year before, no question. So
Could
yeah,
certainly
that's all I'm
be.
saying.
They're in one of the divisions that you could perceive as the weaker divisions in the NFL,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
they're certainly set up to win that. It's time. Tell me, rack them and stack them. What do you think of this division? Where do you lay things out? And if you look at things, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit here. Is that the way I'm looking at it? Is that you look at quarterback coach. Let's go down the list. Let's start with the Jags. Jags, we know we've got the quarterback. We don't know if he's reached his full potential or not. We know we've got a franchise quarterback. And do we have the coach? I don't know. You go down to the Texans. We believe we've got the quarterback. We believe we've got the coach. He's pretty well respected. And
Yep.
it looks like you do. The Titans, we don't know if we have the quarterback or the coach. Okay.
Yep.
You go to the Colts. We know we have the coach. Do we have the quarterback? And
I
that
think we
is
have the coach.
do what?
I'm not sure that I know. I know you're a big Steichen fan. I'm not sure
Huge
that we can
Vikings
say
fan.
they've definitely got the coach. Yeah. I mean, last year was his first year. They went 9-8.
I just
They got
think we got
outscored.
almost playoffs with Gardner
Yeah.
Minshew. I think that and
Yeah.
look, just by everybody that I trust in the league, everybody that I hear from, and everybody that I watch on TV as well, that I talk, that I listen to, that I respect. He's the guy, and it's not good. He's great, and we'll see how he did. And again, Jalen Hurts' only good year was with Shane Steichen, so I do believe that Steichen's the guy, and I believe that, but I just don't believe that about that. But I'll give the edge to him and see if he can do. But with all that being said, rack them and stack them.
Okay. I would say, first of all, let me say the division we did yesterday, which is the AFC North. I think if you take anyone but Pittsburgh and drop them into this division, they win. Cincinnati, Cleveland, or Baltimore would win this division, probably running away. So let's
Probably a fair point.
take a look at it from that point of view. And everybody's very tight. Even the Titans. I mean, they finished 6-10, but I mean, they're not. They, they didn't play like a 6-10 team exactly. I'm going to put Titans at the bottom, and
Yep,
I'm gonna flip the Jags and the
they've earned
Texans. I'm going
that.
to say Jags at the top. Pardon?
The Titans have earned that bottom place
Yes.
until proven
And
otherwise.
I would say true. I would say flip the Jags and the Texans. I'd say Jags one, Texans two. What's really interesting to me is the Colts are such a wild card to me because of Anthony Richardson, because of Steichen. I believe that's a good team, or it will be very soon. But I mean, they could win the division, and
Yeah,
I'm picking them third right now.
yeah,
But they could, and I'm not just saying could win the division. I'm saying I would not even be remotely surprised if they went out and went 11-6 this year or something. I mean, they could do that. It's just I just don't have any reason to know that they will because there's too many questions. But they're the biggest wild card in this division, in my opinion. They're the biggest what do we have here team.
but it should be really interesting. Look, I mean, I think that even for me, I'm going to go a lot. You're going to have an agreement with me on the Titans. Is that I think they're a building team. We're going to see who they are and who they actually potentially could be after this year. I think you and I'll have a lot better, more informed opinions mid-season on this team. And like, hey, is Bill Callahan the guy? You got an offensive head coach. Is he going to be able to develop Will Levis? Will Levis going to be the guy? Are they going to be picking in the top of the draft next year
Yep.
because Will Levis is not the guy? So we'll put them there as fourth as much as that, just because there's too many unknowns about that.
Yep.
For me, um, interesting enough, I'm going to say the Jags because I saw that Doug Peterson, I don't believe, whatever worked with him at at Philadelphia, I think is working a little bit here. He's certainly better than Urban Meyer. That's a low bar, and I just don't see that is actually picking up. I mean, I really want it to. I mean, like I said, I think we both of us share a love for Trevor Lawrence and a jealousy of his longer hair. But the only thing about that is that we'll see. I just feel like there's a lot of flux here. You mentioned it, third offensive coordinator in 4 years. It's a lot of change for him. He's a smart guy. People last year even challenged, does he really love the game? I mean, he's kind of got this laid back California cool look, and you can't tell that he does. But everything I hear from those close, that he's very passionate about it. He just has a different way of showing it. But I'm still going to pick them third because I think that the top three are really kind of you could flip a card with any of these and turn it up. But I'll say for arguments, they finish in third. I've got Indianapolis in second just because I am high on Shane Steichen. We'll see if Anthony Richardson's the guy or not. And then my number one team is Houston Stroud. I am all in on the Houston Texans, primarily because of D'Amico Ryans and because of CJ Stroud. So I'm a big fan and excited to see how they go. Smooth Andy, any thoughts for the road?
Nope. I think this is going to be a very interesting division. I mean, sometimes I mentioned about dropping one of the teams from the AFC North in here, and three of them would probably win this division hands down. That doesn't make this unexciting. In fact, the fact that there's so there's so much parity within the division, it's going to be an exciting division just to see who comes out of it. And yeah, to your point, I mean, those top three teams, I think, could be almost interchangeable in terms of where they finish in the standings. It might just come down to somebody fumbling, in one game, and everything, flips from first to third and second to first and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's going to be a fun division, and there's a lot of. I really am looking forward to seeing your Steichen and your Colts to see how they're going to do, because I do like Steichen as well, and I think that's a team that has a lot of talent and could make a big amount of noise. I'm just not ready to invest yet.
Yeah, no, certainly understand that. I may be overplaying that. Could be the Jags next and see how they do. We'll see. Guys, as you can see, even the AFC South, a division that we don't think is going to be as strong, we love discussing them as much as anybody else because as I speak for Andy, and I think I can, we love football. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this program, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want more picks about this year as the game goes on, because we're going to love this game all year long. As you can see, preseason, we're already dialed in to midseason form. So go to UncleBillsLocks.com. Guys, thanks again. Have a great day. And we will see you next time where we finish up the AFC.